For thousands of years, the Fellaheen, the Palestinian peasant farmer, was the backbone of Palestine's agrarian economy. Millennia of experience had made the Fellah the master of all of Palestine's challenging microclimates. He carved the stone hillsides into productive terraces, stored winter rains in underground cisterns, and cultivated olive trees, so ancient they had names. In the 19th century, the Ottoman Tanzimat reforms brought modernization. Roads were paved. Telegraph lines connected Jerusalem to Beirut. A railroad connected Jaffa to Jerusalem. The urban elites took advantage of the improving infrastructure and modernized regulations to connect the Fellaheen's agricultural products to global markets. It didn't take long for the world to develop a taste for grapes from Hebron, barley from Gaza, and olive oil from Nablus. But the crown jewel of Palestinian agriculture was the Jaffa orange. Exports of the Jaffa orange exploded from 200,000 oranges in 1845 to 38 million oranges by 1870. Olive oil exports from the port of Jaffa increased from 28,000 liters in 1857 to 567,000 liters in 1882. When the American Civil War halted U.S. cotton exports, Palestinian cotton producers enjoyed astronomical prices for their cotton for the duration of the war. Jaffa's port boomed. The burgeoning agricultural trade gave Palestine a balance of trade surplus. Fast forward to 1945. By this time, the Zionists had purchased some of the most productive, fertile lands in Palestine. They had modernized their agriculture with Western methods. The Zionist settlers owned 450 of the 500 tractors in Palestine. They used synthetic fertilizers, chemical pesticides, and herbicides. In contrast, the Fellaheen developed over millennia an intimate knowledge of every inch of the land they cultivated. Unbeknownst to them, they were practicing what today would be called organic farming, an agriculture that was in sync with the ecosystems that sustained it. Using these traditional methods, the Fellaheen continued to dominate agricultural output, despite their lack of access to Western technology. The 1945 British survey of Palestine found that the Fellaheen produced 92% of the grain, 86% of the grapes, 99% of the olives, 77% of the vegetables, 95% of the melons, and over 99% of the tobacco. According to the report, the Arabs were responsible for over 78% of Palestine's agricultural output. Let's address another persistent myth about Palestinian land. A common Zionist claim is that endemic malaria had depopulated fertile regions like the Jezreel Valley, leaving them empty and awaiting redemption. This is false. The Jezreel Valley was intensively cultivated and ringed with thriving Fellahin villages. These communities were deliberately built on elevated ground to avoid the malaria-infested marshes and seasonal floods on the valley floor. Villagers descended daily to farm the rich lowlands that had sustained them for generations. Centuries of exposure to malaria brought the Fellaheen a degree of inherited immunity through a process of natural selection. This was typical of populations in fertile malaria zones across Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. But European settlers, lacking this biological resilience, were often devastated by their first contact with the disease. The very land that sustained the biologically adapted native population could be a deadly and hostile environment for the European settlers. But wait a minute. This history sounds nothing like the stories I've heard. Didn't the Jews arrive to find Palestine empty and barren? Wasn't it the Jews who made the desert bloom and created an economy where there was none? As you can see, even a cursory understanding of the actual history of Palestinian agriculture and the Palestinian economy, even before the first European settlers arrived, exposes that Zionist fantasy as having no relation to reality. Now you know the real story. The Fellaheen have cultivated the land of Palestine since the time of the Bronze Age Canaanites. Theirs is an ancient way of life that survived centuries of invaders and a procession of empires. In 5,000 years, you develop roots that grow very, very deep. Roots that will never be uprooted. Thanks for watching. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons if you would like to see more content like this.